Live from ACL.
ACL Live.
It's happening.
ACL Live from ACL Live.
Live from the limits of ACL. We're back in the book Straight Life, the story of Art Pepper, updated edition by Art and Lori Pepper. Art Pepper, 1925 to 1982, was called the greatest alto saxophonist of the post-Charlie Parker generation. But his autobiography, Straight Life, is much more than a jazz book. It is the most explosive, yet one of the most lyrical of all autobiographies. So this edition is updated with an extensive afterword by Lori Pepper covering Art's last years and a complete up-to-date discography. So yeah, we got the book. Earlier, me and probably episode, I think it was 18 or something, we did Stealing. And that was chapter 15. And that was set in 1960. Stealing. But now we're going to go back to chapter 5 and do Heroin, 1945 to 1950. So this is Art Pepper's Straight Life.
Heroin.
He's a jazz musician, and he plays the saxophone. And tell him the big bombshell.
He's
a white man.
He's a white man. Yeah, that's what it was. I was going to say he was extremely handsome.
And he's also very handsome.
He's also super handsome.
He has a pointy face. So then, I guess he just got home from the army. He fought in World War II in the last chapter that we're skipping. And he's maybe married and already has a kid or some shit. But he's, 19 or something. He's 21 something. Okay. When I came home, Patty was staying with my dad and my stepmother, Selma. And when I came to the door, my daughter, Patricia, was there. She was walking and talking. She didn't respond to me. She was afraid of me. I resented her, and I was jealous of her feelings for my dad. Naturally, she'd been with them, so she didn't feel about me the way I wanted her to. And that started the whole thing off on the wrong foot.
Wow.
So he's back from the war. His daughter doesn't recognize him and is uncomfortable with him. I was bitter about the army. And bitter about them making me have a kid I didn't want. Bitter about being taken away when everything was going so good. I was drinking heavily and started using more pot and more pills. And I scuffled around and did a casual here and there or a couple of nights in some club. But nothing happened, and I was getting more and more despondent when finally, by some miracle, Stan Kenton gave me a call.
Whoa.
Stan Kenton was incredible. He reminded me a lot of my dad. Germanic with blonde straight hair, he was taller than my dad. I think Stan was about 6'3", slender, clothes hung on him beautifully. He had long fingers, a long hawk-like nose, and a very penetrating gaze. He seemed to look through you. It was hard to look him in the eye, and most people would look away and become uncomfortable in his presence. And just like my dad, he had a presence. When he spoke, people listened. He was a beautiful speaker, and he had the capacity to communicate with any audience and adapt to any group of people. We would play in some little town in Kansas, and he'd talk to the people and capture them completely. We'd be in Carnegie Hall, and he'd capture that crowd with another approach. We'd be at the Cavacos in Washington, D.C., a jazz club filled with the black pimp-type cats and the hustling broads and the dope fiends, and he'd capture them.
Wow. He
would observe, study the people, and win them. One time we did City of Glass at the Civic Opera House in Chicago. It was written by Bob Graetinger, a revolutionary composition, an incredibly hard musical exercise. It was a miracle we got through it. Bob conducted it. A tall, thin guy, about 6'4". He looked like a living skeleton conducting, like a dead man with sunken eyes, a musical zombie. He took us through it, and he finished. And he turned around to the people, and he nodded, and the people didn't do nothing. The place was packed. We'd played the shit out of this thing, and now there wasn't a sound. They didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. I'm looking at Stan, and I'm thinking, well, what's going to happen now? What's he going to do now? What would you do, Zane? What would you? You've just played the hardest piece in the world for the biggest packed crowd.
And there's silence from the peanut gallery. Not a word.
Silence from the adoring fan.
I'd cry.
Stan looked at the audience. I saw his mind. You could see it turning. And all of a sudden, he leaped out onto the middle of the stage, gestured at us to rise, swung his body around to the audience, and bam! They started clapping, and they clapped, and clapped, and clapped, and then they stood up with an ovation that lasted for maybe 5 minutes.
And then he crowd surfed all of them.
He did it all himself. Stan did it with his little maneuver.
Wow.
He's the best.
Yeah. He sounds like
he's the best band leader in the world. Once, when I was interviewed for Downbeat, they asked me about Stan, and I told the interviewer, if Stan had entered the field of religion, he would have been greater than Billy Graham. And Stan didn't like it.
Who's Billy Graham?
He's the most famous preacher.
Oh, okay.
And Stan didn't like it, but he didn't understand it. Maybe he thought I was putting him down, or maybe he thought I was belittling religion and ranking him for being a phony. But that wasn't my intention. I was talking about his strength. He was the strongest man I ever met.
Wow.
I traveled with the band. Shelly Mann was playing the drums. Conti Candoli was playing trumpet. Bud Shank was in the sax section. June Christie was singing. Lorindo Almeida was playing guitar, and I was featured with the band. We played a lot of different places, and I was getting a name, a following. At first, Patty came along with me, so it was fun. But one day in New York, while we were working at the Paramount Theater, Patty got a telegram from my father saying that Patricia was sick. I don't remember what she had. I didn't even pay attention to it. I was so angry. To me, it was as if Patricia had gotten sick purposefully to rank things for me. Oh, yeah, he's always talking about people ranking him.
Whoa.
I don't know what that means, really, but it's bad, I think.
She got sick to fuck with his plans. He
Yeah.
seems pretty selfish, but he's pretty...
No, he
aware.
is, yeah. No, he is. But he's an old man, and he's, thinking about... He was like, I was a real jerk back then, kind of.
Yeah.
To me, it was as if Patricia... Yeah. So, Patty left, and that was it. For all intents and purposes, that was the end of our marriage. Patty started feeling it was her duty to stay with Patricia. It was impossible to take Patricia with us. We tried to take her once to Salt Lake City. We drove instead of traveling on the bus. I bought a car. But all the oil ran out of the car, and we got stranded. And then Patricia got sick. It was impossible. It was too impossible. The mileage we had to cover was too demanding. They both went home, and I sold the car. And that was the last time Patty was on the road with me.
Whoa.
I really became bitter then because I was so lonely, and I couldn't stand not having a woman. There were chicks following the band that were very groovy, that really dug me. They'd send notes and hit on me and wait for me after the job, but I'd rarely have anything to do with them because I felt so guilty when I did. All right, you ready?
Good guy, yeah.
Let me get the perfect, dictionary angle.
So he's not hanging out with his daughter.
No, he hates his daughter,
He
yeah.
hates his
He's kind of
daughter.
pissed at
He's
his daughter.
at his daughter. Where you at?
Just where that page break is. Yeah. It's in 19...
In 1948, we were playing the Paramount Theater again in New York. Vic Damone was the single attraction. Sometimes we'd play 7 shows a day, and there were a bunch of young girls who used to come around to all of the performances. One day after a show, 4 of these girls came backstage and left a note. They wanted to meet me. I went to the stage door and said hello to them. I brought them into the dressing room and talked to them.
No.
They were 16.
Fuck.
17? They said they wanted to form an Art Pepper fan club. Would I mind? I thought they were joking at first. But they were serious. So I told them, no. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that I'd be flattered. But I couldn't understand what a fan club would entail. We just started the Paramount. I think we played for 13 weeks, and it was jam-packed. I was living in a hotel on 47th and Broadway, and these girls kept coming around, so I'd take them out. Oh, yeah. We'd go to the drugstore, I'd buy them sandwiches, and they took pictures of me. That's a good date.
Nothing.
Classic.
Yeah. You guys, we eat sandwiches. You guys take pictures of me. Nothing weird happened. Nothing weird happened.
You just go to the
I ate some
drugstore.
sandwiches. They took pictures of me. It was a regular, I do that with my buddies,
They were fairly nice looking, and they must have been from the Bronx.
Do you think this is how people from California talk?
Oh,
I don't really know how people
I
from
just want to do
California
an
talk.
old voice. I just did like a voice from
It's
like
fine.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really think about the fact that he's from California, but he's in New York.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what he would talk like. I
But
think
here
he
he
would
is
talk
talking
like
about their
that.
accents. They were fairly nice
Oh,
looking,
right.
and they must have been from the Bronx because they all had that accent. Finally,
You were already
that I was
talking
already
with.
doing, yeah.
That was why
I was
like-
doing the Bronx accent that they had.
Yeah. Of course.
But for
We
him-
get it. I get it now.
Finally, they told
Pretty
me
next level.
that they really cared for me, and that they had a crush on me, and they would like to, they'd work it out among themselves and come and visit me one at a time.
No. Shut it down, Art.
I said okay,
No.
but I was thinking they're pretty young,
Interesting thought. Interesting thought to have, Art.
and I didn't know for sure if that was what they wanted. The next day, the one they had elected president of the club was at the Paramount after the first show. This was in the morning.
She's the
had
president, bro.
We had 2.5 hours between the show. She said, "Shall we go to your place?"
He doesn't. Does he not even do heroin yet? I thought he was gonna do heroin.
The
The
president-
chapter's called heroin.
The president was about 17.
Fuck.
She looked Jewish.
About.
Yeah, she was about 17.
Oh,
I like that
interesting.
he
How
calls
about
her-
is interesting.
I like that he calls her the president, as that's her character name. Her character name is the president. She just remembered.
Well,
remembers
she's
her
the
as
president.
She's
I had to
president of
listen
the
to her.
club.
She was the president.
Who knows what her name
Your
is?
Honor. Your Honor, she was the president.
She was the president. Who had the real?
Have you ever been the president of anything, Your Honor?
Who had the power in that situation? Me or the president?
Speaks for itself.
The president was about 17. She looked Jewish. She had a slender body but nicely shaped. She had pretty eyes. She was the most attractive of the four with lovely skin, dark coloring. I wanted to get through that really quickly.
You want to linger on the...
I wanted to move through that. We left for the hotel. The guys in the band were watching, giving me these looks. Wonder what that's about. The president... The president was really enthused. She had a pretty dress on, and her eyes were all lit up. Her whole manner had changed.
No.
Oh, God. She... I don't want to read it, man.
You can skip it.
I'll skip it.
What happens?
Well,
you want to
I'll
summarize
say
it?
She suddenly became sexy.
Okay.
And very womanly and sure of herself.
Right.
We got out of the theater and it was chilly. So I didn't want to do it with the accent for some reason. It felt worse.
Yeah.
We got out of the theater and it was chilly. So I helped her on with a coat. And that was the part I felt bad about. Because when I'm with a woman, I'm very polite and mannerly. It becomes like a love situation. I felt guilty when I put her coat on and she clutched my arm and it was as if we were lovers. I was hoping we could have got where we were going without all these formalities, walking her on the right side of the walk and helping her across the street. It was too cold to walk to the hotel. Ordinarily, it was a nice walk and I had hoped it would relax us, although she seemed completely relaxed. I was the one who was nervous. I hailed a cab and opened the door for her and there was another little pang. We walked in the hotel and I really felt strange. I started feeling that the house detective was watching, or the guy at the desk. The house detective? We walked into the hotel and I felt really strange. I started feeling like that the house detective was watching.
I think in the old days, maybe at a hotel, there's a house detective.
Like in Sweet Life of Zack and Cody?
Yeah, if one of the
mom is the house
there's
singer.
yeah, she's the house singer, and there's also a detective. But I think it's like, to make sure there's no mixed race couples, or you know what I
Okay,
mean, that
sure,
sort of
sure,
vibe.
sure.
There's more rules back then.
Yeah, for sure.
So we need the detective to go investigate everybody, and
Yeah. Walking from the elevator to the room, I thought,
miscegenation.
what am I letting myself in for? Maybe this is some sort of weird plan to blackmail me or take pictures. Maybe somebody's gonna break in and beat me up. I remembered all these stories I'd heard about people
But
being
that
in
didn't
the big city
happen,
getting
and it
taken.
fucking ruled.
There were a lot of young people mixed up in terrible crimes. We got to the room, I closed the door, locked it. My heart was pounding, and I was almost to the point of telling her, let's forget it. But I'd gone too far to stop, and I had been away from Patty for a long time. And I was going to be away from her for 5 months more.
No.
And the girl seemed so clean and nice.
Skip it.
Seems really
Skip
intense.
it if you want.
Okay.
Skip it. Do they fuck? They're gonna fuck?
I had a bottle in my room, a bottle of vodka, poured some in the glasses. I asked if she wanted a drink. She said just little, and I drank mine down and then took a great big straight shot of vodka. She's just standing there waiting for me. She still got a coat on. I took her coat and hung it in the closet. She's still standing there looking at me with this knowing look, and it's... Oh, fuck. I sat down in the bed, started making small talk. It's a shame this isn't a nicer place, but being on the road, we just have to take a little place and like this, and because all we do is sleep in it, you know? She just kept gazing at me. At some point, she said, "You're the most beautiful man I've ever seen."
He is super hot.
He's starting to talk about her dress. I'm skipping that part. Oh, God. At some point, he says there was no mistaking at this point what was going to happen, so I'm just going to skip to the next paragraph.
Yeah, maybe the next page.
He just did. Yeah. Okay, I skipped that whole section.
He hasn't even done heroin
The next
yet.
page, it just sex was in my thoughts all the time, and because of my upbringing, I felt it was evil. It was because of my upbringing that I felt it was evil.
Yeah.
That
Not
made
all
it
the evil
even
stuff.
that made it even more attractive to me, and the alcohol and the pills I took made my sex drive even stronger. I was obsessed. I used to room with different guys in the band, but if I had the money, I'd room alone so I could fool around with the maids. Oh my
yeah,
God.
this is cool. The maid's is cool.
The maid didn't exist for me as a person, so there was nothing Patty could be jealous of.
I don't know. The maids. Yeah, he's like fucking the maids.
Sometimes they would suck on me, or something like that. But what I really wanted wasn't the consummation. I was away from Patty, and so that wouldn't go out and
The
goof.
maids.
I wanted to have these experiences which would provide me with vivid mental pictures I could conjure up.
When he's in jail.
If
bro.
I was rooming alone, I would wait for the maid to come. I'd peek out the door to see if she was there. I'd leave the door locked, but not from the inside. She'd think I wasn't in the room. I would lie on the bed and expose myself.
No.
Oh.
You're not allowed to do that.
Alright, skipping this part.
But the maids are vibing.
Down south, the maids were great. They
The
went
maids
along
love
with
it.
whatever you wanted because they were afraid for their jobs. And they were kind of naive.
Dang.
I'd say, well, come on, if you want to get the room, get it now. Or I'd make up an excuse saying that I had to do this or that, or somebody would...
His dick's
Jesus,
out.
dude. Whoa.
Alright, you can skip the maid fucking.
It's
him
like
sexually assaulting the
long.
maids.
It's like I'm trying to skip past all this stuff where he's sexually assaulting everyone, but...
He hasn't even done heroin yet.
Oh, okay, so...
We need to see him doing heroin. Maybe one of the maids gives him heroin.
At the end of it, okay.
We need
Okay,
to pick
so
up
he
the
says-
heroin thread.
At some point, he's talking about his sex addiction. He goes, what if somebody seen me? What if somebody looked out a window and called the police? I got back to the club and sneaked into the bathroom. I had cum all over my shorts and on top of my pants. I wiped myself off, and when I buttoned my coat, it covered the area. I felt awful and thought, what's happening to me?
Did
What
he
would
go
Stan
look
think?
at some people? Was he like peeping? Maybe he was peeping.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't care, I guess.
Yeah, he was peeping.
He was peeping on some guys.
He's being a bit of a peeping Tom, I think.
What a pervert.
Yeah, and then he said, what's happening to me? What would Stan think and the guys in the band? I've got to stop this. And then it says, heroin stopped it for me.
Whoa.
So that's why he was talking about his sex addiction and his crimes.
He's like, actually, when I started doing heroin, I
Heroin.
wasn't a pedo anymore.
Oh, heroin.
And,
That's
I never
kind
had
of-
sex again.
Kind of a point for heroin.
We love heroin, yeah.
Heroin stops people from being...
Sexually assaulting maids.
Yeah. In 1950, I was in Chicago at the Croydon Hotel. That was the hotel all the musicians stayed at. I was rooming with Sammy Curtis.
Cool guy.
He was a tall guy with a round face,
Yeah.
rosy cheeks, blonde curly hair, and he had this lopsided grin. He played the little boy bit. He thought it was charming.
I do this.
He was very talented.
I'm a little boy.
I think we played the Civic Opera House that night. I was featured. I got all the praise and applause, and it was great while it was happening. But after everybody left, there I was alone. I wandered around the town, went to all the bars. I ended up back at the hotel and went into the bar there. I just had to continue getting loaded. It was a compulsion. I had demons chasing me.
Yeah, he says cool stuff like that.
The only way I ever got loaded enough so I could be cool was when I passed out, fell out someplace, which is what I used to do almost every night. They kicked me out of the bar at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't know what to do. There was no place I could get a drink. It was getting daylight, and I couldn't peep in any windows. There was no one on the streets. I went back up to the room. Sammy was there, and Roy King, a tenor player, and Sheila Harris, who's a singer, and some piano player. They were all using heroin.
Oh, no. Get out of there, Art.
Sammy had been using stuff for a long time.
Get out of there, Art.
And I knew it.
That's not safe, Art.
But I never would try it because I
Art,
knew
that stuff's bad.
that the minute I did it, it would all be over for me. I asked them if they had anything other than stuff and they didn't. If they had anything other than stuff and they didn't. I was so unhappy and Patty was 2,000 miles away and there was nothing I could do. I had to have something. Really, he's blaming a lot of this on Patty being so far away.
A lot of it's Patty's fault.
Seems like Patty should kind of keep him in check. And
If it wasn't for that kid.
Sheila came over to me. She was a good singer who worked with another band. She was about 5'2" and a little on the chubby side.
Okay.
But what they call pleasingly plump.
Okay.
She had nice breasts. Large, but nice. And although I've never liked chubby women, she was one of the few that turned me on.
Get it, Art.
She had long eyelashes and large eyes, bluish green.
Finally.
Her face was oval and full, and she had full lips. Her eyebrows were full. Most women in those days plucked their eyebrows, but she let hers grow, and I like that.
I like that you have eyebrows.
She had long fingers and nice nails. And she was a nymphomaniac.
Hell yes. Bro.
When she looked at him... Oh, God. This stuff is pretty intense.
But she is an adult, so why would it be weird? Why would it be weird now?
Not weird now.
Don't have to skip it now.
Definitely.
It's not sexual assault. She's vibing.
She was an nymphomaniac. When she looked at a man, she was thinking of sucking his cock. That's what her thoughts were, and she turned you on because you could feel that.
Whoa.
Everyone could. And you were turned on by the stories. She was a legend among musicians.
Whoa.
Whether they had ever made it with her or not, they'd all tell stories about balling her.
Yeah, he says balling.
Does that mean like to have sex with?
Yeah,
fuck?
that's balling. Balling.
Balling. Ball is life.
Yeah, got a ball.
She was purely sensual, but only in a sexual way, no other.
Gross.
No warmth, no love,
No.
no beauty.
Aww.
When you looked at her, you just saw your cock in her mouth. Oh my God, he's intense. Art Bell's...
pretty, Art Pepper.
Art Pepper, not Art. She came over to me and offered me some stuff. Just to horn it, sniff it, she said. Why don't you hang up that jive and get in a different groove?
Hang up that jive.
Why don't you come to the bathroom with me? I'll show you a new way to go. I was at my wit's end. The only thing I could have done other than what I did was to jump out of the window of the hotel. I think we were on the 14th floor. I started to go into the bathroom with her, and Sammy saw what was happening and flipped out. He caused a big scene. He said, I won't be responsible for you starting to use stuff. But Roy said, man, anything would be better than that jive booze scene he's into now.
The booze scene is jive.
What could be worse? That's really a bring down. We cooled Sammy out, and me and Sheila walked into the bathroom and locked the door. Who was Roy? Roy came in hot to defend
Roy is one of the tenor players.
Oh, yeah. He was really just telling him, just let him do heroin, man. You're being a bummer.
Hey, man, we're all doing heroin, so...
Let him try it for the first time. Stop bumming us out, dude.
Hey, man, that alcohol scene's jive.
True. When we got in there and she started playing with my joint, Oh.
That's his dick.
Okay, I thought they were gonna do drugs.
They will.
But they...
That's why. That's gonna be bad.
She said,
that's bad.
Do you
when you tie them together,
you want me to
that's
say,
not good for an addict's mind.
Do you want
like
me to say hello to him? She was marvelous, and she really turned me on, but I said,
Do you want me to say hello to him?
Wait a minute. Let's get into the other thing, and then we'll get back to that. I was all excited about something new, the heroin. I had made up my mind. Good. He's having my thought. I was like, come on,
bro. You gotta focus up on the heroin.
She had a little glass vial filled with white powder, and she poured some out onto the porcelain top of the toilet, chopped it with a razor blade, and separated it into little piles, little lines. She asked me if I had a dollar bill. She told me to get the newest one I had. I didn't know you had to do that. I had one. It was very clean, very stiff. I took it out of my pocket and said, roll it up. That's the sound of Clarkson, Andrew's dollar bills. I started to roll it, but she said, no, not that way. She made a tube with a small opening at the bottom and a larger opening at the top. Then she went over to the heroin and said, now watch what I do and do this. She put one finger on her left nostril, and she stuck the larger end of the dollar bill into her right nostril. Put the tube at the beginning of one pile. Make a little noise, and the pile disappears. She said, now you do that.
Now you do that.
I closed my nostril. I even remember if it was my left nostril. I sniffed it, and a long, thin line of heroin disappeared.
Oh, I got some even newer dollars. Okay.
She told me
I just wanted to make sure I had a new dollar.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the new dollar.
I had some good ones, yeah.
You want to use a new dollar. She told me to do the same with the other nostril. I did 6 little lines, and then she said, okay, wait a few minutes. While I'm waiting, she's rubbing my joint and, and playing with me. I felt a tingly, burning sensation up in my sinuses, and I tasted a bitter taste in my throat, and all of a sudden, all that feeling, wanting something but having no idea what it was, thinking it was sex, and then when I had a chance to ball a chick, not wanting to ball her because I was afraid of some disease and because of the guilt, that wandering and wandering like some derelict, that agony of drinking and nothing ever being resolved, and no peace at all, except when I was playing. And then the minute that I stopped playing, there was nothing. That continual insane search just to pass out somewhere and then to wake up in the morning and think, oh my God. To wake up and think, oh God, here we go again. To drink a bottle of warm beer so I could vomit. So I could start all over again. So I could start that ridiculous, sickening, horrible, horrible life again. All of a sudden, the demons and the devils and the wandering and wondering and all the frustrations just vanished, and they didn't exist at all anymore because I'd finally found peace.
Wow. Sounds pretty good.
I felt this peace like a kind of warmth. I could feel it start in my stomach. From the whole inside of my body, I felt the tranquility. It was so relaxing. It was so gorgeous. Sheila said, look at yourself in the mirror. Look in the mirror. And that's what I'd always done. I'd stood up and looked at myself in the mirror, and I'd talk to myself and say how rotten I was. Why do people hate you? Why are you alone? Why are you so miserable? I thought. Oh no. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spoil this feeling that's coming up in me. I was afraid that if I looked in the mirror, I would see it, my whole past life, and this wonderful feeling would end. But she kept saying, look at yourself. Look how beautiful you are.
Yes.
Look at your eyes. Look at your pupils. I looked in the mirror, and I looked like an angel. I looked at my pupils, and they were pinpoints. They were tiny little dots. It was like looking into a whole universe of joy and happiness and contentment. I thought of my grandmother, always talking about God and inner happiness and peace of mind. Being content within yourself, not needing anybody else, not worrying about whether anybody loves you. If your father doesn't love you, if your mother took a coat hanger and stuck it up her cunt.
Oh.
I didn't see it coming.
Surprised
by the slur.
Watch.
Sorry. If your mother took a coat hanger and stuck it up to try to destroy you because she didn't want you, because you were an unclean, filthy, dirty, rotten, slimy being that no one wanted, that no one ever wanted, and no one was still ever wanted.
No.
I looked at myself and I said, God, no, I am not that. I'm beautiful.
Nice.
I am the whole complete thing.
Wow.
There's nothing more that I care about, and I don't care about anybody. I don't care about Patty. I don't need to worry about anything at all. I'd found God.
Nice. Yeah, fuck my family. Who cares about them, bro?
Pretty much, man. He found God.
Yeah.
He's pretty off the, he really lets it ride.
Yeah, bro, he doesn't give a shit.
His sentences really they run on pretty intense.
Yeah, he's just talking.
It's really off his
He's just
dome.
recording himself talking, yeah.
I love myself. Everything about myself. I love my talent. I had lost the sour taste of the filthy vodka that made me vomit, and the feeling of the bennies and the strips that put chills up and down my spine.
Oh, yeah, he would talk about the strips.
What are the strips?
I don't know. He explained it, and I was like, I've never heard that shit ever. But that might be why we need to read the Army one.
Wow. What are the bennies are...
I think they're pills.
Benzos or something?
But it's like the strips are like, you get like an inhaler or something, but then you like open it, and there's like a little piece of paper.
Wow.
Or something. There's like weird shit. I don't remember. I just remember being like, oh, I never even heard of that.
Where was I? Oh.
The benzos.
The bennies and the strips that pull chills up and down my spine. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I looked at Sheila, and I looked at the few remaining lines of heroin, and I took the dollar bill and horned the rest of him down.
Horn that.
I said, this is it. This is the only answer for me. If this is what it takes, then this is what I'm going to do. Whatever dues I have to pay. And I knew that I would get busted, and I know that I would go to prison, and that I wouldn't be weak. I wouldn't be an informer like all the phonies, the no account, the non-real, the zero people that roam around, the scum that slither out from under rocks, the people that destroyed music, that destroyed this country, that destroyed the world, the rotten fucking lousy people that for their own little ends...
Democrats.
Oh, he does really go into it. I didn't want to say this one with the Black Power people. Didn't want to say the sickening, stinking motherfuckers that play on the fact that they're... I don't want to read this part, but the rotten, the no account, filthy women that have no feeling for anything and they have no love for anyone. They don't know what love is. They are shallow holes of nothingness. The whole group of rotten people that have nothing to offer, that are nothing, never will be anything, were never intended to be anything. All I can say is, at the moment I saw that I'd found peace of mind. Synthetically produced, but after what I'd been through and all the things I'd done, to trade that misery for total happiness, that was it, That was it. I realized it. I realized that from that moment on, I would be, if you want to use the word, a junkie.
Junkie.
I would be junkie. I would be chunky.
Dang. Yeah.
I ate so many burgers.
Didn't expect him to bring in the Black Power movement.
Yeah, that kind of
blindsided me. But I think he just sees it as division. He's confused about the Black Power movement.
It was cool when he was talking about the non-real zero people.
Yeah.
That's
snitches.
Really
yeah,
cool.
He hates snitches and won't snitch on anyone.
Yeah, the phonies and the, of course.
He's
I'm not going to be weak. I won't be an informer.
Yeah.
That's the word they used. Junkie. That's the word they still use. That is what I became at that moment. That's what I practiced, and that's what I still am. And that's what I'll die as.
Whoa.
A motherfucking junkie.
He said that.
It didn't say motherfucking.
Oh,
but
nice. Sometimes he does.
I know, but I thought it was...
It's cool.
It's good for him.
Give me them.
That was a good start to...
Yeah, I'm glad you got all those parts. Pretty strategic of me.
Pretty strategic to throw in the parts where he
says all the
gets
slurs
really
and is
mad
really
at the
mean.
Black Power movement.
Yeah. But
and also all the stuff about...
Oh, yeah. Oh, and now we got a different...
Seems like every... But I feel like this whole book is like... I can't tell if there's parts in the book that aren't pretty intense like that.
They're just intense. It's a thing where you go, he can be intense in such different ways. And you kind of don't expect how it will go. Where you're like, oh, dang, you're just kind of being real honest. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's like crazy, but then sometimes, yeah. Okay, so in the book, it'll have different guys' names, and it'll be them talking about their encounters with art.
That's sick, yeah.
So this one says Hirsch Hamill. We were playing at a place called Esther's in Hermosa Beach, and I was with Jack Montrose. Jack and I were friends. They used to have a session at this place almost every night, so we had gone down there to play, and Art came down. And we all enjoyed ourselves together. This must have been in the late 40s. Art was serious about playing, liked to laugh, and he was drinking, smoking pot. Art immediately hit it off with Jack and I, and we all decided to meet there again. And we did on succeeding days. Art was very handsome at that time, lean and dark, black hair, combed back, and very fastidious. Art was a very interesting player, swinging and very intense, sort of trying to do his own thing under the cloak of the strong sentiment and strong popularity of Charlie Parker. Art was trying to create a style of his own. Art was married to Patty, and they were living somewhere between Washington Boulevard and Adams in a nice little place. Patty was a sort of naive girl who wasn't terribly interested in music, jazz. She was very pretty. She was blonde and very pretty. Very much a take care of business type of girl. She did her thing around the house, wasn't lazy, sort of serious and not terribly talkative or friendly with any of the musicians.
You feel really sympathetic towards Patty in this, but after knowing what we know about...
Yeah, after knowing how shitty he is, yeah.
After that whole chapter where he just cheated on her so much.
Right. But also it sounds like their marriage was over.
Their marriage was over, yeah.
I don't know.
True.
Hard to say what her end of it is.
She had the kid, true.
She had her own set of friends, whoever they were. She was always nice to me, said hello. But Freddie Rivera, we got to know Freddie, he would always be around Art, coming over to the house. And I got the impression that Patty didn't like Freddie. Didn't like Freddie over there. She didn't like Freddie. Didn't like Freddie over there.
Okay.
Art wanted Freddie there. Art got a big kick out of Freddie. Found Freddie very amusing.
Oh.
So there was a little tension between Patty and Art about Freddie.
Oh, that happens.
As for me, when I came over and picked Art up, or whatever it was, she was more friendly with me. But I felt I was still one of the musician friends of Art's. Patty and Art seemed to be on different mind levels. They didn't seem to have the same likes and dislikes. There wasn't a great rapport between them, Art seemed to love Patty, and Patty's ideas about the way a marriage should be didn't coincide with Art's. I don't think Art really thought about it that much. He was very involved with his music and his emotional ups and downs with his music. They took a great toll out of him, so he wasn't able really to grasp the reality of the marriage situation. That was my feeling. We used to go out playing all the time. Go over to the east side, play at different places. Sometimes out of 7 nights in the week, we'd play 5 nights. And we had a different place for each night. Even if we weren't working, we'd be together as a group of guys. Myself, Jack Montrose, Art, Sammy Curtis, sometimes Chet Baker, sometimes Jack Sheldon, Bill Perkins, Gene Rowland, Bob Brockus, Bob Neal.
Name drop.
Sometimes Shorty Rogers even came along.
Oh, Shorty Rogers.
Rowan Arneal was there. Some nights we'd be playing at a place called the Samoan in East LA, right in the barrio off Whittier and Atlantic. We knew the owner there. He was very mellow, and he liked us to come in. He knew Freddie. Al Leon had a place for us to play in El Cerrito, and the Mexicans loved Art. I think they thought that Art was part Mexican. He has that Latin look. I don't think they realized he's more Italian than anything else. He was just a hero to them. They'd come in and take us outside and get us high. At that point, Art was just drinking and smoking pot, maybe a diet pill from time to time. And he could always drink me under the table. I remember one night we were at the opening of a record store in East LA. It was about 10 at night, the grand opening, and we played like a jam session. The owner asked us to. They closed up the store at about 1, and we played until 4 in the morning. And Art, while I was standing up playing my big bass fiddle, Art was pouring this gin down my throat, and it was running down my neck. Well, I got so drunk. Art drank more than I did, and I got terribly sick. Art didn't really even show the effect. He was drunk, but he wasn't drunk like I was. He took me home, and my clothes were all screwed up, and Patty washed my clothes and cleaned me up. I was a mess. It was a lot of fun. It really was. The point was, Art was able to consume a lot of stuff, no matter what it was, and show very little effect from it.
Yeah, that
Like a
seems
demon,
totally
yeah.
in character with Art, pretty much.
About that period, Art went back on the road with Kenton, and the way I heard it from Art, the way I heard it from Art was that he was initiated to heroin while he was on that tour.
Oh,
That was what we heard.
That's the story we just heard.
I remember he came back and he was involved with heroin. It seemed like he got involved pretty fast and pretty deep. When Art wasn't on the road with Kenton, he would do some things by himself, and I remember he was down at a place on 6th and Western called the Surf Club. Hampton Hawes was down there with him, and I remember how loaded Art was on the gig. Really zonked. I remember going down to see him and being disturbed about him being so stoned while he was working. Wow. His playing was fine, but it seemed like Art began to feel like he couldn't play good enough unless he was on heroin.
Yeah.
Art's really a gifted and talented player. He's given his great talent to jazz, his style, and did retain himself through all the Charlie Parker years, some pretty rough times. I remember there was a club near Hollywood Boulevard where we used to go play sessions after hours. This must have been 1960, something like that. I was standing outside the club and Art was going in, and Joe Maini was going in, and somehow there were words between Joe and Art. Joe said something like, hey, F-slur, about the way Art played. He didn't mean Art's demeanor as a person, just that he played kind of like a gay man.
His music.
Yeah. And they got into a fist fight and were rolling around on the concrete, hitting each other over the style of Art's playing.
On the saxophone.
Yes. Art was defending his playing by engaging in fisticuffs with Joe.
Okay.
You know, there are Charlie Parker influences in Art's playing, but Art was able to retain himself, whereas most of the alto players emulated Parker, and therefore they didn't have as much of themselves to give as Art did. I think that's a great thing.
Well,
that's what
that's the whole thing. He
Hirsch Hamill said.
Wow.
And he plays the big bass fiddle.
Cool account of Art.
Yeah, it's cool to see what other people say. They're just like, yeah, he was real, like, kind of scary. It was like he would act all kind of scary, and we were all very scared. And
Patty was
really nice.
Nice to me.
She's really nice. She would wash my clothes. Do you want to do Freddie?
He has another guy who has an account. Yeah,
remember Freddie from the story? Oh. She really didn't like Freddie.
Right. I would love... Yeah, oh, well... I'll do Freddie hesitantly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hesitate.
I don't know. Yeah, he might be... I don't know. Yeah. Who knows why she did... He's probably just kind of dirty.
He's probably drunk all the time or something. He's got to be a drunk guy.
I don't know.
Freddie Rivera. At that time, I was completely lost. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I wasn't even close to having an idea of what I was doing. In reality, I was doing nothing. Getting drunk, running around the streets, screaming. At times, it was enormous fun.
Running around the streets,
screaming. But much of the other time, it was frightening, really. Not knowing what the hell was going on. Art was frightened, too. He was frightened for his life. At one time, we went into a shopping center, and people were going in and out the doors, and he said, "They're making it. Those people are making it." One time, we were in a car, and we were talking about what? And we were talking, and somebody said, "You know, a lawyer makes $80,000 a year. You, Art, you're not making anything at all. You should be making as much as a successful lawyer or doctor." It was the truth, too. Art was making, what, $20 a week?
I don't know.
Stripper.
Yeah.
He's hosting.
Yeah, he's hosting all the open mics.
He's hosting an open mic and he makes $20 a week. You already know. Of course, when he was with the band, he was making more money, but he was capable of making $80,000. He rationalized it. It's a rotten world. People are cold and conniving. They won't give a person a chance. There's no justice. I met Art when I was 19, around 1946. I was a drummer. I met him through Al Liam, the piano player. He brought him over to my house. He went out to this place in Bell. They had sessions over there. Zoot was there most of the time.
Zoot Sims.
And Jim Giffrey.
Jim, I don't know how to say it. Giffer? I don't know.
G-I-U-F-F-R-E.
He plays clarinet. He plays clarinet.
Stan Getz.
Huge.
The sessions were usually on Sundays. And we like to hang out.
Those seem
right
like
around.
good sessions.
Smoke
we should go
dope,
to those.
Drunk, talk.
We should go to those in the time machine.
Those sessions do seem really
Those
cool.
seem like some good sessions. If Zoot and Jimmy are there.
Hang out.
With Stan.
Ride around. Smoke dope. Drink. Talk.
Skateboard.
Hey dude, do you want to hang out sometime? Do you want? I would love to just like maybe we just hang out, ride around, smoke dope, drink, talk.
Yeah, that's some shit you say to someone at your job that you've never hung out with.
Yeah, whatever you're feeling, man. We could smoke dope, just ride around, or we could drink, or we could talk. I don't know. We just do whatever. Art and I were able to talk to one another. When two people liked one another, sometimes they don't even know why. I guess there was some kind of empathy there as far as emotions.
Nice.
Attitudes, feelings, sensitivity. And of course, another factor was youth. When you're young, you can be very open. You make friends more easily. Art's attitude towards music is difficult to describe accurately. He's a marvelous musician, always has been. Very exact, with the right sound, whatever that means. The sound I like, marvelous vibrato, but very exact. Does it right. And of course, a lot of guys can do it. But they can't swing. And there's depth in his music, insight. When I think of art, I think of Lester Young, and I think of Mozart too. The quality, it appears... the accent I'm doing seems funny to say that he thinks of Mozart.
But I also think it's like Freddie Rivera probably has like a Mexican accent, so that's probably even funnier for him saying
That's
Mozart.
from saying Mozart.
Or like Mozart.
The quality... The quality, it
Talks
appears...
like Manny.
Yeah, from Modern Family.
Family.
The quality, it appears to be... and I don't know if I need to do a Mexican...
No, yeah, that's the thing. It's like once you start thinking about it, you're like, I don't know anymore, man.
The quality, it appears to be easy, but it's never easy. For anyone... I'm just going to do the old voice. I like that one.
Yeah,
But if it were
Okay.
easy, anyone could do it. I think there's a certain classical feeling there. I'm using the word to mean a feeling for form and for proportion and whatnot. He's just naturally a musician. He came out of the womb a musician, and I'm positive he always had a commitment to it. But you wouldn't find him like some guys, practicing 8 hours a day, constantly trying to get connections, get ahead, get the gig, achieve power, fame, the grind. He doesn't say that part, but that's what he's describing.
Grind set.
Yeah. He was afraid of any responsibility. He just wanted to fuck around. Cool.
Art Pepper seems pretty cool.
Yeah, seems pretty chill. He was Patty was a friendly person, an emotional, warm person. But she wanted Art to be more active and to seek success more vigorously. Go after it, take care of business. And I imagine, as his wife, she wanted security, whether it was expressed immediately in more money or whether it was expressed in his ability and attitude. His attitude and his ability to take care of himself. So she could at least feel that she was with a secure person who had a sense of direction and control of his life. Patty was very attractive. Physically, she was an exciting-looking woman, erotic in appearance, although she had something of the, clean-cut Midwestern look about her and considerable charm. I think Art felt a need for her, an emotional need to draw upon her. I would think he had a strong feeling of physical attraction, emotions of abandon with her. Oh, okay. Art was very sensitive. I would say cunning in many ways, a real paradox. He had an inability at times to really take care of things and deal with his life in a forceful, direct way to change things. But at the same time, he showed a cunning in his relationship with people. The cunning was a result of great natural intelligence, but it really was a form of childishness. Instead of taking the form of advancing his career and getting work, which he had every right to have, it was diverted into the manipulation of flunkies. Take me to the job. Bring me home. Yeah, come on, bring a jug. And people did this, of course, out of admiration for his talent.
The flunkies.
He loves manipulating the flunkies.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, they're so fun.
We love flunkies.
And I know what they got out of it. Feeling like nothing themselves, not having any identity, they were able to incorporate themselves into something else that was larger, that was great. So they more or less had themselves swallowed. And Art, I don't think that anyone could benefit from that. And Art, I don't think that anyone could benefit from that. It's almost 110% self-destruction.
Whoa.
Because everything is false and there's no room left to grow. And to do things for oneself, to actively walk into the world. I'm going to drive myself to the gig. I can do it. But Art was emotionally very young. The child must be taken care of. He must be given things. Infantile gratification. Infantile gratification. For an infant, it's perfectly appropriate. He's weaned in 3 years. He's weaned in 3 years. One time, we were at a place, and I bought him a pizza, and then I wanted to take a bite. He wouldn't let me have any. What would you call that? That was selfishness. Then, of course...
That's what you said, Zane.
Yeah, I said he was a selfish guy. And then, of course, he would have a student, a guy named Joe Martin, and the student would drive him everywhere and do things for him. The master! We must serve the master! That type of thing. Art used it to the hilt. He had considerable charm, intelligence, a very natural ability to understand things. He was a very handsome man, a great natural talent. These are attractive qualities. His humor tended to be rather burlesque. It could be vicious, mimicking people, and often very accurately, very perceptively, with the intelligence working. But mostly, it was burlesque. Sometimes playing hillbilly music, he'd shout, "Tarnation!" and "Shit, fire and save matches!" Shit, fire, and save matches.
Shit, fire, save matches.
Ha 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 ha. Art is sensitive, even though at times the sensitivity is largely an expression of selfishness.
Whoa.
He's sensitive to such a degree about himself. A person can be like this and be insensitive to other people at times. Not always.
Whoa.
Often he could be very warm and friendly, and you could talk to him. At times his concern for other people would be expressed as sentimentality. I really love you, man. That was me speaking. No, that's not in the book. I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah.
I was just,
I love you, man.
Even histrionics. Being stoned and being emotional. But I question whether at any time the concern with the self was ever put aside. I saw a definite change in Art when he started using heroin.
No.
It was rather dramatic, the change, I think. Consisted essentially in the intensification and exasperation of traits that were already there. Indulgence in the self, a desire to escape the external world, reality, to sink into the self almost entirely, to be passive. As a musician, in the case of Art, the musician is a person who expresses himself and does send something out, but even this could be passive at times. It showed in feelings of intimidation in the presence of another strong musician, a reluctance to blow out if there was somebody around, another strong player, or in one of these very sticky social senses in the jazz tribal games, who's number one? Heroin intensified Art's tendencies to withdraw, not to fight, not to assert, and that was the easiest thing to do at the moment, although it made his life more difficult in the long run. I was able to use heroin from time to time just for fun, though.
Cool.
I think we all have a predisposition in our systems for certain types of behavior and certain drugs. With some people, booze is really their messiah, their mission, their destiny. They're just going to be soaked. I didn't have the need for heroin. I don't know why. I got off scot-free. At times I had the need to get stoned, whacked, and I thought of taking heroin for that purpose, but it was never the heroin itself. It was never love. Deep, natural, flowing love. Art said to me once that all of his life, all he'd really ever wanted was to get high. And the first time he stuck that needle in his arm, he said, "I finally got high."
Whoa.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
So far, no one's like that really. They just say he really liked it. Did he die from heroin? Do you know that?
No, he's old. He got old.
He just died normally.
I mean, it's probably like he would have lived longer if he didn't do heroin, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Guess he's a big picture.
Oh, yeah.
Should we try to... How long's 6? Take a
Straight life.
Yeah, I could probably put it into that for now. Do you want to do some Chinese fairy tales just to
Yeah, that'd be cool.
chill out?
It's pretty intense. His straight life is pretty...
It's, yeah. I mean, he's not diluting it. It's straight life.
It's straight life, yeah. It definitely feels like... Even the notes that other people wrote about him.
Yeah, it's always just like, he's a scary, handsome man
He's a
who's
scary-
very intense.
But also a baby.
He's also a baby, yeah. He's a baby
He's
man.
like a manipulative baby.
Manipulative baby man with lots of flunkies.
Yeah. And he's got, yeah.
You know, he's the goat, so. But we got the Chinese fairy tales and fantasies book. We're working through this. I left it at the Censor and the Tiger. So I think we should start off. We're in the Ghosts and Souls section.
Okay, cool. It's good to know.
And this one's by Cheng Tu. Do you want to do it, or do you want to do Underworld Justice?
I'll do Underworld Justice. You can do
Okay.
the other one first.
Alright, this is the Censor and the Tiger. Li Qing of Lungxi in present-day Kansu was an imperial relation. As a youth, he was learned and excelled in composition. At the age of 20, he had become an esteemed and eminent scholar and was awarded a stipend by the governor. In the spring of the 10th year of the reign of Tian Pao, AD 751, Li Qing was one of the most successful candidates under the assistant prime minister Yang Mo, and advanced to the highest degree. Some years later, he was assigned to fill the vacant office of chief constable in Changnan. By nature, Li Qing was an indolent man and arrogant because of his talents. He could not adjust to his low position as chief constable and felt frustrated and depressed. Whenever he met with his colleagues, he said after a few drinks, "How could the likes of you be in a class with me?" His associates resented this bitterly.
Of course.
In time, yeah, that's how everyone felt talking to you, Fraser. In time, he resigned his office and secluded himself at home for nearly a year. Then, pressed by the necessity of earning a living, he packed his bags and went to the southeast to seek office from the local administrators. He had a considerable reputation in that area, and many people gathered to study under him and enjoy his talented company. A year or more later, as he was packing to leave, they weighed him down with generous presents.
How kind of them.
What is anything going to happen in this? What is happening? This is the weirdest story. Li was traveling home with his gifts when he stopped at a lodge in Jufin.
Okay, this seems like an inciting incident.
There, he was stricken with fever and lost his senses. He made his servant miserable and whipped him unmercifully. You gotta whip him mercifully, okay? After 10 days, the illness worsened, and Li ran raging into the night. No one knew where he had gone, though his servant waited and tried to find him. But in another month's time, when Li Qing did not return, the servant disappeared with his master's horse and possessions. The following year, the scholar Yuan San of Qin Prefecture was on his way to the southernmost province of Guangdong with an imperial commission to serve as supervisory censor. From the title, Censor and the Tiger. He and his escort came by stagecoach to the territory of Shangyu in Honan province. As he was about to set out the next morning, the man in charge of the post told him, "There's a tiger on the road ahead, a ferocious man-eater. No one goes through except in broad daylight. It's still too early. Stay a bit longer. You must not go ahead." "But I am the emperor's representative," cried San angrily. "We are many on horseback, and no beast of mountain or marsh can do me harm." And he ordered the carriage forward. He had hardly gone a quarter of a mile when a tiger charged from the brush. San was terrified. Then the tiger dove for cover and spoke with a human voice. How strange, I nearly killed my old friend.
Oh,
From the thicket, San recognized the voice of Li Qing.
of course.
The two men had taken their degrees together and had been close friends. But their ways had parted many years ago. Now, hearing Li Qing's voice, San was both frightened and amazed and could not understand what was happening. Finally, he asked, "Who are you? Can you be my friend Li Qing of Lungxi?" The tiger moaned several times. Then said to San, "I am Li Qing. Kindly stay a few moments and have a word with me." San got off his horse and addressed the bushes. "Dear Li Qing, how did you come to this?" "Since we parted long ago," said the tiger, "I have had no news of you. How have you been? And where are you bound for now? Just before I saw you, I saw two of your officers riding ahead. The courier was leading them and holding your seal of office. Can it be that you are an imperial censor on a tour of duty?" "Recently, I was fortunate to take my place as a censor. I have been sent on a mission to Guangdong." "You have established yourself through your literary achievements," said the tiger, "and your entering the ranks of at court is truly a great fulfillment. But even greater is the integrity of the position of imperial censor, who bears the responsibility of examining the conduct of all officials.
Whoa.
His Majesty has exercised discretion in selecting an outstanding man like you. And it is a heartfelt satisfaction to me that you have attained this position. I greatly congratulate you." "In times gone by," replied San, "you and I achieved great recognition the same year and formed a friendship closer than the common sort. But time has raced past while our voices have been unheard and our faces unseen by one another.
This is really sentimental.
My heart and eyes have been denied hopes of seeing your excellent example. Who would have imagined that today I would hear you speak with such remembrance of our friendship? But why are you hiding instead of coming out to meet me?
True.
That's not how it should be between old friends."
True. Trickery.
There he is. There he is. There's a picture of him.
Oh, there's a picture of a guy.
He's
next
leaning
to
against the tree. "I am no longer human," replied the tiger from the thicket. "How can I present myself to you?" San asked how such a thing could have happened, and the tiger said, "I had visited the southeast and last year was on my way home. I stopped at Jufin where I suddenly fell ill and went mad. I raced onto the hills and soon found myself walking on all fours. I could feel my heart grow ruthless, my strength enormous. My limbs had long hair on them. When I saw men in full dress on the road or rushing about with their burdens, when I saw birds aloft or animals afoot, I wanted to devour them. When I reached the south of Hanyin, I suffered the pangs of hunger. A plump man crossed my path, so I seized him and gobbled him up to the last scrap.
Whoa.
That has been my practice ever since. Although I was an arrogant man, I still remember my family and friends. But having violated holy sanctions, having turned suddenly into a wild beast, I have been ashamed to face anyone. Alas, you and I were awarded our degrees the same year, and we have always been close. Today you hold an imperial commission and bring honor to your parents and your friends. But I have to hide myself in the forest and abandon the world of men forever.
This is what Facebook is like. This is what it's like.
I leap up and sigh vainly at the sky.
Like,
I lower my eyes to the ground and weep, ruined, unfit to serve. Such is my fate. The tiger cried and moaned, unable to master its feelings. Yeah, I'm a furry now. I'm at the high school reunion, and I'm a furry.
yeah.
And I'm crying.
And I'm
I keep
hiding.
crying and hiding from people, and I go, and they go, is that Andrew's voice? And then I go, I cannot face you. I have turned into a wild beast. I got really sick. A while ago, and I've been a tiger. Okay, back to the story. If you have turned into another species, why are you still able to speak?
Good question.
Asked San.
Good question.
It is my form that has changed, said the tiger. My heart and mind have human understanding, but I am rude and impetuous, filled with fears and hatreds, and unable to do what is expected of a friend and host. All I ask is that you remember me and pardon my inexcusable conduct. When you return from your tour in Guangdong, if we should meet again, I shall surely forget our lifelong friendship and regard you as another meal in my trap. Be on guard.
Whoa.
Don't let me commit such a crime and earn the scorn of my fellow scholars. The tiger added, You and I are as one. May I entrust something to you? I would never refuse my old friend, replied San. Please explain fully, for I am eager to help you. Had you not agreed, the tiger said, I would have not dared to mention it. When I was at the inn, I fell ill and went mad. After I entered the mountains, my servant made off with my horse and baggage. My family must still be in my old village. Would they ever imagine what befell me? When you come back from the south, please send a message to them, saying only that I have died. Nothing of what happened today. I am in your debt if you do this. The tiger added, In this world I have no property. My son is still too young to make a living for himself. You have a high position at court, and you have always set an example of morality and loyalty to my friends.
True. Please raise my son.
Nothing surpasses the friendship we had. I hope you will keep in mind how helpless my son is and see to his needs now and then, lest he perish by the roadside. What a blessing that would be. When he was done, the tiger began to cry. San also cried and said, We share our joys and our sorrows. Your son is as my own. I will do my utmost to comply with your grave charge. Have no worries for his welfare. In former times, the tiger said, I wrote a few dozen pieces which have never circulated, and the drafts are scattered and lost. If you could transcribe them for me, well, I would never dream of their being noted publicly. They may contain something useful to pass on to my descendants. San called for a servant to bring writing materials and wrote as the tiger recited.
Whoa.
It came to nearly 20 chapters. The style was lofty, the meaning profound.
Of course.
San sighed over and over as he read the text.
Of course, your old friend, your old friend who's now a tiger is going to write the most profound shit you can ever imagine.
These tell of the things I tried to do, the man I tried to be, said the tiger. I have no right to expect that my words will mean anything to future generations, but you are on a mission and have a schedule to meet. If you dally here too long, the courier will fret over missing the next stage. So now our ways must part for good.
I've left you my Zootopia fan fiction that I wrote.
The sorrow this causes me cannot be described. After a prolonged goodbye, San left. The first thing he did when he returned from the south was dispatch a letter to Li Qing's son with some money for funeral.
Whoa.
In a month's time, the son came to the capital and called at San's residence to ask for his father's coffin. Having no choice, the imperial censor told him all. Later, San shared his official salary with Li's wife and son to spare them any hardship. Eventually, San rose to become vice minister of war.
Whoa.
So what, did that not happen? So, did you think that didn't happen?
Oh, that was a real guy.
He was the Vice Minister of War, yeah.
Wow.
That was weird.
Cool backstory for his dad. Cool backstory to write about your own dad.
Yeah, my dad's not around. Yeah, you want to do Underworld Justice?
Yeah, but
What's this one called?
Underworld Justice.
Okay. It's Pusong Ling.
Huh?
It's Pusong Ling, I think.
Pusong Lin, Underworld Justice. Xilin of Tungan, a country in Hunan province, was a gullible, artless... a county in... What did I say? A country?
Country.
Yeah. A county in Hunan province was a gullible, artless man. And that is how he had fallen out with the Yangs, a rich family in the same hamlet.
He was gullible and artless?
Yeah, apparently he was artless.
Dang.
And that resulted in his falling out with the Yangs.
Okay.
Old Yang had died a few years ago before, and now Xilian was at death's door. Old Yang has bribed agents of the underworld to beat me, he cried. Xilian's body became red and swollen. He moaned once and was no more. Xie Fang Ping, his son, could not eat for grief. Father was a plain and simple man, he said, and not clever with words. Now he has suffered injustice at the hands of a vile ghost.
Yeah, he's gullible.
And I'm going to take myself to that world below and plead his cause.
Whoa.
Those were the last words of Xiao Fang Ping spoke for many days. He would stand, he would sit, but he seemed to have lost his mind, for his soul had already departed from his body. As Xiao Fang Ping's spirit set out on the journey, he had no idea where he was headed. But he asked his way of travelers on the road, and they directed him to the city where his father was already in prison. She went to the prison gates and saw his father lying under the eaves, a wreck of his former self. When the father lifted his eyes and saw his son, he wept pathetically. "All the jailers take bribes," he said. "They've been beating me all day, and my legs are like pulp." She cursed the jailers. "If my father has committed a crime, he should be tried according to the law of the realm," he said angrily. "How can you underworld demons take the law into your own hands?"
They're demons.
Then he went out and prepared a written
We're
complaint.
demons!
Yeah, you're a demon. I've got a written complaint.
You're thinking of a devil. We're a demon.
He appeared at the morning sessions held by the city
demon.
god, voiced his grievance, and submitted the paper. Old Yang took fright and began passing out gifts before presenting himself to answer the charges.
Fuck.
The city god showed Xiao Fang Ping no consideration and held that his complaint was groundless. Furious, but without recourse, she traveled some 10 leagues in the kingdom of the dead until he reached the governor's seat, where he complained formally under the favoritism shown by the city god and his underlings.
You gotta tell him that you know Peppermint Butler.
The government...
Tell Death that you know that Peppermint Butler says hi.
The government delayed judgment for half a month. Then this is a lot like an Adventure Time episode. So.
You know Peppermint Butler?
The government delayed judgment for half a month. Then had she beaten and ordered the city god to repeat the trial.
Jake's in jail. They keep beating him.
Yeah. She arrived at the city gate, and he was placed in the stocks, where he fumed because he could not make his wrongs known. Fearing that she would try to appeal further, the city god sent guards to escort him forcibly home to the world of the living. The guards excused themselves at the gates to the upper world, and she did not go through. He sneaked back to the underworld to appeal to the king of the dead against the cruelty and greed of the governor and the city god.
Smart.
The king at once took the two officials into custody to answer the charges, so the pair secretly sent their trusted henchman to negotiate with Shi, offering him 1,000 pieces of silver if he would drop the case. Shi rebuffed them. Several days later...
Consider yourself rebuffed.
The keeper
You're
of the inn,
rebuffed, okay?
where she was staying, said to him, "You are too proud, my friend. The officials are seeking accommodation with you, but you are resisting them. I understand that each of them has offered gifts to the king, and I fear your cause is doomed." She took this to be an idle rumor. But soon the court
This is like
attendants...
Serpico. This one's like Serpico.
I see it. But soon the court attendants...
Anti-bribe.
came to summon him before the king of the dead, and the king was in a fury. He would not allow Shi to make a deposition. Instead, he ordered 20 strokes for him. "What's my offense?" cried Shi. But the king seemed to hear nothing.
Is that Al Pacino?
"I'm only getting..." I don't know who that is.
It's pretty good, yeah.
"I'm only getting what I deserve," shouted Shi. "After all, who told me to be poor? No one. So it must be my fault." The king grew even angrier and ordered him placed on a bed of fire.
Fucked up in your past life, you idiot.
Well, he's about to be placed on a bed of fire.
Good.
Two ghosts seized Shi and took him away to the east yard.
You can skip if this gets too fucked up.
Where there was an iron bed frame with a fire burning under it. The surface of
too
the bed
fucked up
glowed
for
red
you.
hot. The ghost stripped him bare and heaved him onto it, kneading him and rolling him back and forth. The pain was intense. His bones and flesh were charred black, and he wished for death. After 2 hours of this, the ghost said, "Enough!" And then they lifted him up and told him to come down and put on his clothes. Luckily, he could walk, though he was lame. At the Hall of Justice, the king of the dead said to him, "Will you still seek a new trial?" A great wrong has yet to be rectified," replied Shi.
Oh, that's hard to say. Great wrong has yet to be rectified.
A great wrong has yet to be rectified.
A great wrong has yet to be rectified.
"So long as your heart and mind survive in me, it would be an insult to your majesty for me to withdraw. I demand the trial." "What evidence will you present?" the king asked. "Evidence of all that I have suffered." In a
I want
passion,
to put the whole system on trial, okay? You ever think about that?
In a passion, the king ordered his men to saw through his Xiaofang's body.
Yeah, just saw through his body.
The two ghosts took him to a wooden pole, 8 feet high, with 2 boards standing at the foot of the pole. The tops and bottoms of the boards were dark with bloodstains. The ghosts were about to tie him to the planks when a shout came from the hall. "Someone for Shi!" The two ghosts marched him back. The king of the dead asked him, "Still brazen enough to call for a trial?"
This would be sick if this happened in Spirited Away.
"I demand a trial."
They just tortured her.
Yeah.
In a blood room.
That would
covered
be cool.
in blood.
It's a pretty scary
and there's
place.
spikes everywhere. But then there is weird mytho fairy tale logic happening.
The king ordered them to hurry him away and cut him open. The ghosts seized Shi between the 2 boards and tied them to the pole. Then they began to saw. Shi felt the top of his head slowly coming apart. Pain enveloped him, but he bore it out without crying out. "Tough son of a gun," he heard a ghost comment. Class, it's a very ghostly thing to say. The saw grated as it reached Shi's chest. "He's a devoted son and pure in heart," he heard a ghost say.
Wow.
"Tilt the saw a bit so we don't damage the heart." She felt the blade curving as it moved downwards. The pain doubled. His torso was divided. The boards were removed, and the 2 halves fell to the ground. The ghosts ascended the Hall of Justice to report on their mission. They were commanded to reunite the body and present it. The ghost pushed the halves together, rejoined Shi, and dragged him along the street. He could feel the strain on the seam where he had been sawed, for it ached and threatened to split open again. He stumbled and fell before he could move a step. One of the ghosts took a silk ribbon from his waist and gave it to Shi, saying, "In recognition of your filial piety..."
Oh, huge. Love filial piety.
Filial piety?
Being nice to your family.
That's cool. She tied it on, and instantly his body felt vigorous and free of pain.
Boom. That's huge.
Do you want to read from here
on? Where is it?
He's free of pain. That was the last thing. It should be somewhere in the top.
Free of pain. I don't know where it says it.
Let me look for it. Maybe I was it the wrong thing.
I was seeing stuff that you'd already read, kind of.
Yeah. Where was I? He demands a trial. He tried it on. Prostrated himself.
Did that happen already?
Oh, I think it's here.
I thought they just sawed him in half and then put him back together.
Well, he said that thing about in recognition of your filial piety, of course.
Yeah, where's that? Where's that?
Right
Point
here.
at that.
Right
okay.
here.
I'm ready then. Okay. Yeah, free. It's at the very top of this page. Okay. He ascended the hall and prostrated himself. There the king of the dead repeated his question. Afraid to incur further suffering, she simply answered, I shall not press the charges. The king immediately ordered him sent back to the world of the living. Escorts led him out the north gates, showed him the way home, and left. She concluded that the officers of the dead were even more lawless than those in the world of the living. He could think of no way that he might reach the ear of the highest, but he was determined to try. It was widely held in the world that the god Lang of Guangguo Township in Sichuan was a relative of the highest of God in heaven. Xi Fengping decided that if he could appeal to Lang, who was regarded as both astute and upright, a miracle was still possible. Glad to be free of the two escorts, Xi turned and went south, but two men caught up with him and said, "The king guessed that you would not go home, and he was right." They bundled him back to the king of the dead.
So he's back.
She expected the king to be angrier than ever, and the consequences to be even worse. But the king's expression was not severe at all. "Your intentions are sincerely filial," he told She. "I have already redressed the wrong your father suffered. By now he has been reborn into a family of wealth and status. You will not have to appeal any further. We're sending you home with 1,000 pieces of silver and a guarantee that you will live to the age of 100 years.
Again, we saw that.
Are you satisfied?"
Yeah.
The king recorded this in his... Yeah, that was in the Upanishad.
Mm-hmm.
The king recorded this in the registry of life and death and set his huge seal upon it. She was invited to inspect the entry personally. He expressed his appreciation and withdrew. The two ghosts accompanied him, but when they reached the road, they began to drive him along and curse him. "What a cunning villain you are, making us dash all over the place until we're nearly dead. Any more trouble from you, and we'll throw you in the mill and grind you to bits." She opened his eyes wide and yelled at them. "What's this madness, you devils? You think that I can endure being sawed in half, but not the sting of your lashes? Let's go back to see the king. If he has ordered me home, you need not trouble yourselves to escort me." She started running back the way they had come. This alarmed the ghosts.
Yeah.
They spoke gently to him and persuaded him to resume his journey. As they went, she purposely slowed his pace, and rested often by the roadside. But the ghosts did not complain. In about half a day, they reached a hamlet. The ghost sat down to rest in front of a house with a door that was slightly ajar.
The second time they've mentioned hamlets. Is it like a...
Oh, you don't know what a hamlet is?
No. I assume it's like a cul-de-sac in my head, or it's like some sort of end of an alley, or...
Right, it's like, so we got like city.
Yeah.
Below that you got town.
Uh-huh.
Below that you got village.
Okay.
Below that,
Hamlet. Subsection of a village.
It's even smaller, yeah. It's not like, I don't consider a town a part of a city or a village a part of a town, but I mean, it's like a smaller town.
Got it.
In this sense. Yeah, the hamlet's up here. Yeah. The ghost sat down to rest in front of a house. Oh, yeah, the door's slightly ajar. She seated himself on the threshold, and the ghost caught him unawares and pushed him inside the door. When he had gotten control of himself, he discovered that he had been born again, an infant.
Whoa.
He cried in indignation, refused his mother's breast, and perished in 3 days. Yeah, if he's a new guy, I'm passing it on to you. It's like up here, past the mother. I think he's gonna try. They're gonna bring him back a couple times.
Separated from his reincarnated body, Xie Fangping's nebulous soul wavered, yet he did not forget about Lang, the god from Guangzhou. His soul had moved a dozen miles along the road when it was surprised by an approaching cavalcade. Banners and spears blocked the way.
Fuck.
Ducking across the highway to avoid it, he ran into the bearers of the imperial regalia and was seized by the front horsemen. They bound him and brought him before a chariot, which held a magnificent young man. "Who are you?" he asked she. Since the young man seemed to be a great minister, she related his woes in detail. He ordered she freed and told him to follow the chariot. Presently, they arrived at a place where a dozen officials greeted them by the side of the road.
Okay.
The minister questioned each of them, then pointed to she and told one official, "Here is a man from the world below who wishes to lodge a complaint. The matter should be resolved quickly." Only then did she learn from the entourage that the god in the chariot was the 9th Imperial Prince of Heaven, and that he had assigned Erlang to the case.
Nice. That's who we wanted.
She examined Erlang closely. He was tall and slender and had a great beard, quite different from what the world of men pictured. After the Imperial
I don't
Prince...
picture Erlang like that.
After the Imperial Prince had gone, she followed Erlang to a courthouse, where he found his father Lin and old Yang, together with the underlings from the kingdom of the dead. What did he say in the beginning is the reason that old Yang and him fell apart?
He was artless.
Artless.
He was artless and
gullible.
Gullible.
Yeah.
They just kind of had, and that's the way it is sometimes with people. You're just like, yeah, we hate him.
Pause for a sec. Soon, some prisoners came out of the cage carts, the city god, the governor, the king of the dead himself. They were interrogated then and there in each other's presence, and all Xiaofengying's charges were confirmed. The 3 officials trembled in fear, cowering like rats. Erlang drew his pen and immediately passed sentence, and the text was shown to all the parties.
Whoa.
We find as follows: he who serves as king of the dead, undertaking an office of princely rank and enjoying the grace of the highest, must have the probity and purity to lead all the officials in service, and must have no appetite for corruption. But you have used the splendor and power of your office in a vainglorious display of status. With goatish stubbornness and wolfish avarice, you have sullied your integrity before the highest.
Wow.
As the axe strikes the wedge and the wedge cuts the wood, your conduct starts a chain reaction that eventually sucks the blood out of women and children. As the whale devours the fish and the fish devours the shrimp, so the life of the lowly is miserable.
Whales eat shrimp.
Well...
Hey, Chinese guys. Hey. Whales actually... Some of them have baleen.
Some fish eat the shrimp sometimes, and some of
the whales are like that, but you know.
As the whale devours the fish...
Blue whales, no.
Oh, okay. So as the whale devours the fish, and the whale also devours the shrimp, and the fish devours the shrimp, and the shrimp devours... So the life of the lowly is miserable.
Yeah.
Let the waters of the West River be drawn to purge your innards. Let your seat of insolent luxury be consigned to flames at once. Then we shall place you in the boiling cauldron with which you yourself have used to force many a victim to confess. As for the city god and the governor, in behalf of the highest, they serve the common people as parent officials, pastors of the human flock. A lot of this is like about the kind of government setup they have down in this demon area.
And then I'm also thinking so I guess also China's kind of like hell. It's kind of set up pretty similar.
They have the city god and the governor and all these officials.
I think those are the ones. Those are just from Earth.
The city god?
Yeah.
His name is God. His city god. It's so cool they call him that. Though they are officers of lower rank, a true office seeker will not disdain them. Even if they are pressured by higher officials, they should resist. But you two brandish your hawk-like claws, giving no thought to the poverty of the people. You have worked with the cunning of a monkey, indifferent to the plight of the dead. Taking bribes to pervert the law, you hid a bestial heart behind a human face.
Yeah, they've been taking the bribes from old Yang.
You shall have the marrow scooped from your bones and the hair plucked from your hides. You shall suffer death even in the realm of the dead and be reborn beasts, not men.
Whoa.
As for the underlings, since they are already demons and not of a human kind, if they will concentrate on amending their conduct in public office, they may be reborn in human form.
Nice.
They must not stir up waves in the sea of suffering and commit such sins as overcast the very heavens. Their lawless arrogance has brought injustice that have caused heaven to send summertime frost and sympathy. Their raging ferocity has severed man's world from the gods and terrorized the kingdom of the dead until every man knows that he must revere only the jailer. And they've aided ignorant officials in their cruelty, making them feared as butchers. To the execution grounds with them, chop up their limbs and boil them, then pick from the cauldron whatever remains of muscle or bone.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Where's the muscle? Oh, yeah.
Right at the bottom.
The bottom?
I think so. Or if you found it, go for it. I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah. And now for this fellow Yang, who though wealthy, was inhumane, contentious, and full of deceit. He covered the ground with bribes, shrouding the throne of the king of the dead in darkness, creating a stench of copper cash that reached unto the heavens, robbing the realm of the dead of all justice. The corruption had spread so far that ghosts were in his employ, and his influence was felt among the gods. Yang's household shall be confiscated and given to Shi Fangping to repay his filial conduct. Let all prisoners now be taken to the Tai Mountain for execution of punishment. The god Erlang turned to Shi Lian and said, "We are mindful of your son's devotion and your own gentle nature, and therefore grant you a 30-year extension among the living." Erlang assigned 2 officers to escort father and son home to their hamlet. Shi Fangping copied the text of the decision and read it with his father on the way home.
This is such a bureaucratic Chinese story.
Yeah, they made a copy of it and were reading it on the way home. When they reached home, Shi Fangping came to himself first. He had his father's coffin opened and the body examined. It was stiff and icy, but after a few days, it gradually warmed and at last revived. She searched for the copy of Erlang's writ, but it had vanished into the unseen. Unseen's capitalized. The Shi household prospered. Within 3 years, they had extended their fertile acres throughout the countryside, while the fortunes of the Yang's descendants declined until their buildings and farms came into the possession of Shi. Once a villager bought one of Yang's fields. That night he was scolded in his dreams by a god for taking what belonged to Shi. The villager ignored the warning, but after he had planted the field and reaped less than a peck of grain, he resold the land to Shi. Shi Lian himself lived beyond 90 years of age. The Recorder of Things Strange says, that's Pusong Ling, he calls himself the Recorder of Things Strange. The Recorder of Things Strange says, "Everyone speaks of paradise, forgetting that the living and dead are worlds apart, and that every sense of thought is lost in death, or every sense or thought is lost in death. Not knowing whence he comes, how can man know whither he goes, much less the events of repeated deaths and rebirths? Thus, how great the accomplishment of young Shi Fangping, whose loyalty and filial love stayed firm through an eternity."
Wow.
So,
Shi Fangping.
Shi Fangping. So, we did it.
That one was...
That's why you gotta love your parents so much, is
Yeah.
that it can transcend lifetimes.
You have to be filial.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Underrated.